Story 1. The Knock at Midnight. Alone in the house. Nadia had never liked being alone in the house at night. It was a big, old place, full of strange sounds that didn't make sense. The floors creaked for no reason, the walls seemed to shift and groan when the wind picked up, and the windows rattled even when they were shut tight. But tonight, she was alone. Her parents had gone to visit her aunt, leaving her to finish an assignment due the next morning. They wouldn't be back until late. It was almost midnight. The house was silent except for the faint hum of her laptop and the ticking of the old grandfather clock in the hallway. She was tired, but determined. To finish, she saved her work and was about to shut down when she heard it. A knock. 3 slow taps. Firm, deliberate. She froze. Listening, the knock came again, louder this time. She stood up, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. The sound had come from the front door. She crept down the hallway, every step on the wooden floor sounding too loud in the stillness. The clock struck midnight with a deep, echoing chime as she reached the door. She peered through the peephole. No one was there. She stood still, holding her breath, staring at the empty porch. Just as she turned away, she heard it again. Knock, knock, knock. This time, it was at the back door. Her chest tightened. She walked quickly through the kitchen to the back door and flicked on the porch light. Empty. Nothing but darkness beyond the small circle of light. She locked the door again, double-checking it, and turned to go back to the living room. Another knock sounded, but it wasn't at the front or back door. It was on the window beside her. She jumped, nearly dropping her phone. Slowly, she turned her head toward the window. The curtains were closed, but something brushed against them. From the outside, just enough to make the fabric sway slightly. Her heart was pounding now. She grabbed her phone and dialed her parents. No answer. She called again, straight to voicemail. And then the knocking came from inside the house. It was faint, muffled but clear. Knock, knock, knock. She spun around. It came again, from the basement door. Nadia backed away, staring at it. The doorknob rattled once, twice, then stopped. She ran to the front door, fumbling with the locks, throwing it open, and stepping onto the porch. She didn't stop to think, just ran down the steps and onto the street. When she finally looked back, the house stood still and silent, but she saw something move behind the front window. Just a shadow. It didn't look human. Her phone buzzed in her hand. It was a message from her mother. "We're outside. Come open the door." Nadia's hands went cold. She was already outside. No one was there. Another message came in immediately. "Let us in. We've been knocking." She stared at the house, at the front door she had left wide open. Slowly, began to close. Not slamming shut, just inching closed by itself. And then she heard the knocking again. Not from the front door, or the back door. It was close now, right behind her. When she turned, no one was there, but a voice whispered softly into her ear, "Let me in."
Story 2. Ayaan lived in a small, quiet neighborhood on the edge of town. His house was simple, one story, surrounded by an old wooden fence and overgrown hedges. It wasn't much, but it was peaceful. He worked late most nights, and by the time he got home, the streets were empty and the world was still. That was how he liked it, quiet, undisturbed. One night he was sitting on the couch, scrolling through his phone, when something made him glance toward the window. It was just past midnight, and the room was dim, lit only by the soft glow of a single lamp. He could see the reflection of the room in the glass. And something else. At first, he thought it was a trick of the light, but then he looked closer and realized there was a face staring at him through the window. It was pale. Too pale. The features were wrong somehow. Stretched thin with hollow cheeks and sunken eyes that didn't seem to blink. The mouth was too wide, the lips drawn back in a grin that didn't reach its eyes. Ayaan shot up from the couch, heart pounding. He stepped back, staring. The face didn't move. It just stayed there, watching him through the glass. He ran to the door, locked it, then grabbed his phone. He was about to call someone, anyone, but when he looked back, the face was gone. He rushed to the window and peered out. Nothing. Just the dark yard, still and empty. No footprints in the dirt, no sign anyone had been there. He convinced himself it had been his imagination. He was tired, overworked. He shut the blinds tightly, made sure the doors were locked, and went to bed. At 3:07 a.m., he woke up to tapping on his bedroom window. Soft, rhythmic taps. Tap, tap, tap. He didn't want to look. Every part of him screamed to stay still, stay quiet. But he had to. Slowly, he turned his head toward the window beside his bed. The same face was there. Closer now. its eyes wide and dark, its grin even bigger. It tapped 3 more times on the glass. Its fingers were long and thin, tipped with sharp nails that scraped faint lines into the window pane. Ayan bolted from his bed, ran out of the room, and locked himself in the bathroom. He sat on the floor, shaking, listening for any sound. Minutes passed, then hours. Silence. When the sun came up, he checked the window again. There were faint scratch marks in the glass where the nails had scraped. He couldn't explain it away anymore. The next night, he left every light in the house on. He shut every curtain, blocked every window, and stayed in the center of the living room. But at midnight, the lights flickered once, then again, and then they went out completely, and in the dark, he heard the tapping again. Not just at one window, at all of them. Tap, tap, tap. He stood frozen as the taps grew louder, closer, and then came the sound of nails scraping against wood, moving along the walls outside. It circled the house, slow, patient. Then something thumped hard against the front door. Ayan crept toward it, his breath shallow. He looked through the peephole, praying he wouldn't see anything, but the face was there, grinning, its eye pressed right against the glass. He stumbled back, heart hammering. The door rattled. The knob twisted, even though he'd locked it twice. Then silence. The next morning, Ayan found deep scratches all over the door, and the peephole was shattered. He didn't go to work that day. Instead, he packed a bag and left. He moved across town to a place with no windows facing the ground, a place with locks on every door. But it wasn't enough. A week later, at exactly 3:07 a.m., there was tapping at his new window. He lived on the 5th floor. No balcony, no ledge. He didn't want to look, but he did. And the face was there, smiling.